Hey everyone, glad to be diving into this with you all today, making sure our kids are getting, really well-rounded education is something I think about a lot. And this piece, how moms can ensure their children aren't being indoctrinated in public schools, kind of stopped me in my tracks a little.
Yeah, I can see why that title, it grabs you, doesn't
Mhm.
it? But when you actually get into it, indoctrination, it's a loaded word for sure, but the article's got some really practical strategies, I think, for parents who, want to be more involved in their kids' education, which I think is all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we all want our kids to be able to think for themselves, right? And this piece really digs into how we can actually make that happen.
hmm
One thing that really struck me was this idea of not just accepting what's put in front of us, but really, engaging with the curriculum.
Oh, absolutely. It's about asking those deeper questions. The article gave this example, like imagine a history lesson on something controversial, right?
Hmm.
Instead of just, okay, this is what happened, encouraging your child to think, well, were there different perspectives on this? Like, what were the different sides of the story?
That's such a good point. It's about teaching them to think critically, to question things, not just soak it in, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, isn't that a skill that, we could all use a little more of these days?
Exactly. And that really connects with, I think, the author's big point about critical thinking being the antidote to this idea of indoctrination. It's about giving our kids the ability to analyze information, evaluate different viewpoints, and ultimately form their own conclusions.
Okay, so how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
How do we make critical thinking something, part of their everyday lives?
Yeah.
The author had this great suggestion about, like, asking open-ended questions.
Yes. Instead of jumping in with all the answers, encourage your child to come up with their own explanations, even if it's something as basic as, why do you think the sky is blue? Or what makes you say that? I mean, these little shifts in how we talk to them, I think it can make a really big difference.
And it's like, it's not just about what they're learning in school, is it? This article really got me thinking about just the sheer volume of information kids have thrown at them these days, right?
Mhm.
Social media, the news, it can be overwhelming.
Absolutely. And, that's why I think the author brought up media literacy and it really struck a chord with me. It's not enough anymore to just say, hey, don't believe everything you read online, right? We've got to give them actual tools to navigate this digital world.
Totally. And they gave this suggestion. I thought this was really interesting. They said, like, pick a news story with your kid, and analyze it together. Like, who wrote this?
hmm
And what are other sources saying? Even like, what are the biases involved here?
Yeah, it's like detective work, isn't it? And it's a skill, It's
Yeah.
going to last a lot longer than just, that one news article or whatever. Think about how much misinformation is out there, right?
Hmm.
If we can give our kids the ability to be critical about what they're seeing, what they're reading, that's huge.
Absolutely. Another thing that really resonated with me was this whole idea of, balanced education. And the author wasn't just talking about school subjects here, but like exposing our kids to a wide range of like viewpoints and life experiences.
Right. It's that understanding that there isn't always, just one right answer. There isn't always one right way of looking at things. And they gave the example of, reading books from different cultures or watching documentaries on different historical events.
It's like that saying, right? Walk a mile in someone else's shoes. It's so important to understand different perspectives, especially these days, it feels like, more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes beyond just understanding where other people are coming from. It's about, developing empathy and compassion.
Hmm.
When you're exposed to different ways of life, different cultures, different belief systems, it broadens your understanding of the world, doesn't it? And the people in it.
And that's something we can all use a little more of, not just kids. It makes me think about, my own experiences and how they've shaped how I see the world.
It's a good reminder, right? That we all come to the table with our own, biases and our own perspectives, and that's okay. The important thing is to be aware of them, right? And to be open to maybe having those views challenged sometimes.
So we're encouraging our kids to be open-minded and question things. Shouldn't we be doing the same?
Yeah.
I mean, how can we expect them to embrace different perspectives if we're not willing to do it ourselves, right?
Exactly. We have to, be the example, model that behavior for our kids, show them that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to change your mind and learning that's a lifelong thing.
Reading this, one thing that really stuck with me was this idea of like really building a dialogue, right?
Mm.
Not just telling our kids what to think, but like really listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, giving them that space, that safe space to share what's on their mind, even if they're still figuring things out, even if it's something, honestly, that challenges our own views.
Totally. And I love how the article put it. It's not about like controlling their thoughts. It's more about understanding how they're, putting it all together in their heads.
And honestly, sometimes that means we have to ask ourselves some tough questions, right? The author talked about being aware of what we're exposing our kids to, like
Mhm.
the books, the shows they watch, even just, the conversations they're overhearing. It's a lot, but it's about being more mindful, I guess, of those messages they're getting.
It's like we're curating their information in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of a big job when you think about it like that, but it's kind of empowering too, isn't it? Like we get to make choices that help them learn how to think for themselves and see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just what we show them directly, right? The author talked about modeling critical thinking ourselves, like in our own lives. So talking through a news story, questioning our assumptions,
Right.
even admitting when we're wrong about something, those are all things that our kids pick up on.
It's showing them that learning, it's not about having all the answers, right? It's about being curious and open to new information. Wow, this piece really got me thinking.
Lots to unpack for sure. But that main message is so important, I think. As parents, we really do have a big role in how our kids understand the world and all the information that's thrown at them.
Totally. By encouraging that critical thinking, being open to different perspectives, and just keeping that dialogue open with our kids, we can give them the tools they need to become, really informed, engaged people. And who knows, we might even learn something along the way ourselves, right?
You got it. We're all in this together.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, even small changes, even just starting those conversations can make a big difference. Stay curious out there, everybody.